Hey, happy Friday. Dr. James Chews in the house again. We are doing a 6-part series on mental toughness. If there is such a thing, I think we're elaborating the title a little each time we go. Thanks, Ben, for showing up, and Chick-fil-A is on its way, Ben. Ben has no hat today, so we're looking at all the grease in his hair today. Nice oily hair. It's called shampoo, Ben. Might want to try it. All right. Dr. James Chews in the house. Chewy.
Hey.
How are we?
Good.
I'm excited about this series. I've been... Thursday nights, I make sure that I don't take in any alcohol or carbohydrates or gluten. So I'm ready for this show. So I'm pumped up with it. All right. We have a special guest in here. This is how the mental toughness series started, with this gentleman that started with me 2 months ago from Michigan. His name is Joe. I call him Joe G. I want to call him Joe Girardi, but I don't think it's Girardi. But he has these like, if the viewers are watching on the YouTube, he has these Chuck Muncie, Eric Dickerson glasses on that are like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar goggles on that are really cool when he works out. But he's fit into the wood gym pretty cool. I mean, I think he's a wood gymmer guy. We'll see as time tells, right? Have more fails and successes in here. So, Joe, introduce yourself. Tell Dr. James Chew knows nothing about you, and tell the viewers and listeners who you are.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Joe Gilardi. My family and I moved down to the Knoxville area summer of 2020. I took a job down this way. I got 3 kids, 4, 6, and 8-year-old, 2 boys and a girl. And, you know, we're just really learning to live and adapt in the times that we're currently living in, and really enjoy the area. I'm really enjoying my experience working out at the wood gym. To me, it definitely is really addressing an area of my life that I felt like I've been missing for the last year. So, you know, to me, as I've gotten into it, it's just become kind of a necessary need to get me through the week. So I've really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed the people I've got to meet here.
Out of curiosity, how did you hear about Charlie?
So it initially started when I was looking for a place for my oldest son to do some workouts.
Is he the 8-year-old?
The 8-year-old, yep. But at initial blush, after I started looking at it, I thought, you know what, this might be a little too much. Let's think about it for a bit. Then I stumbled upon the podcast. And
wait, so how did you even know that there was a Charlie Patron out there?
Google. Yeah, I had not heard about him before that. I Googled, you know.
So you never heard of him before?
No. Okay. No, I didn't have any idea. But when I started doing the Googling and necessarily didn't consider it to be maybe the right thing for my son right away, I started listening to the podcast, and I started working through the podcast. One of the podcast episodes that...
Were you just like looking up personal trainers on Google? Okay.
Yeah. Knoxville area, performance training.
I got you.
Mm-hmm. Articles about who he's worked with, what he's done. All of it, again, it seemed at first blush maybe to be too much for my son at this point in time, but it really appealed to me. You know, it appealed to me just on face value, because you walk into this place, looks like a pole barn, very unassuming, you know, not beautiful new machines. It's literally just what you need to get enough done. And then listening to the podcast, it just built upon that idea that, you know, it is certainly a place you can get a workout in, but it's not the tools in there that's going to make the workout. It's kind of really what you're doing when you're in there. What are you going to let yourself do? What are you going to push yourself to do? And as I started listening to the podcast, that theme was reoccurring. And, you know, Dave Marlowe was the podcast that, to me, made me want to come literally find Charlie when I heard Dave's story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Dave's was a big reason why you got in here. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
40. Just turned 40 this summer.
Okay. All right.
I think that's the first guest that you don't know much about, because he comes in at, I don't know, different times, or you've seen Chewy before, but
just a couple times.
Yeah, just nothing. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and what do you do? What is your occupation?
Yeah. So I'm the director of benefits and well-being for TVA. So I manage all of the benefits programs that our employees are offered in their families, as well as any of the corporate well-being programs we do. And then in addition to that, I'm responsible for our medical staff. So given the type of work that we do, we have a large medical presence, and I oversee all of those functions at TVA.
where did you go to university in Michigan?
Tulane. So I did school at Tulane. I also did some education at Elma College, a small school in Michigan. That's really where I started my education, and I finished up with a master's degree from Western. So I kind of stumbled into benefits. I started off doing consulting work for benefit programs that employers ran for their people. And over time, it just kind of merged me getting into the corporate side of things.
And do you play sports?
Yeah, I grew up. I played basketball, ran track, played football. I ended up going on and playing Division III football at Elma College, a small college in Michigan, about 1,200 kids. But yeah, sports were an integral part of my life all the way through, from being a young kid up through college. So activity has always been important to me. But like I said, I started losing sight of that probably over the last 3 years. I mean, you could almost argue COVID was kind of my starting point of not recognizing, of me recognizing I'm not being nearly as active as I was. And I was feeling the consequences of that. Yeah.
Physical, health-wise, everything?
Mentally, yeah.
Okay. That's a brief sketch. I just wanted to get a brief understanding. Chas, what? You were the reason why we thought about mental toughness, right? Through your conversations with Charlie and concerns. You want to talk a little bit about that, Charlie?
Yeah, I got his text just so everybody knows that we did a segment a year ago, probably on mental toughness, but just one segment, or mental over physical, right?
Versus physical.
So it's different.
Yeah,
so
very different.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
And you could go into that. So this is mental toughness. So I get a text from Joe August 28th or 29th, I think. Bear with me. My eyes are going bad. Your last podcast was really good, and the message was timely. My son played against one of the inner city teams yesterday, and the difference of mental toughness was obvious between the mid-city boys and Farragut boys. Farragut is a West Side team. I think we talked about that.
Farragut has, for anyone that's not in the area, has more money, is a kind of nice suburbs, mid-city. What school in particular were you?
I think it's an Austin East district.
Yeah. So it's a inner city school. And so just to line that up for people who don't understand. Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear your thoughts more about being a bad MFer. Do you think it is more nature or nurture? Probably less than a handful of Farragut kids stepped up and weren't scared when it started going rough, but it seemed like all mid-city boys were comfortable in that environment. I can't believe all the mid-city boys were born with that, and some of it must be a product of their environment.
What were they playing?
Football?
They were playing football. Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought, gosh, with all the different people in here, I mean, you could do your whole population in here of what mental toughness is, to define that, to help Joe and his son. You know, hey, do you think it's too early for my son to come in and get some wood gym, as we say, love, or is it not? Or what do you think about getting that done? And we talked about that on the teaser last week. I get that question every day from mom, dads, agents,
for 30
coaches,
plus years. Yeah.
Whatever. This kid's got great talent, but he can't get after it. I can't get him. And what I find is each month and each year I pick up different kids. And the parents are surprised that the kids want to come in on Wednesdays at 5:45 a.m. because they couldn't get them up to do other workouts, other places, or even to, get up and go on vacation. But they look forward to coming to Patrons. So whatever that is brought to the table, I think that's the first sign of, I'm going to say discipline. I'm going to say just wanting it to get up that early and looking at it as a gift, not a chore. Like I have to, I want to is the big difference. So
big difference.
So, we took that survey. I went through so many different people, even Ben, our producer, and got everybody's, and I didn't want to give it away of what I was thinking. So I just said, define mental toughness. And I've come up with so many different ones. So I think that's what we're trying to find. And you'd be amazed the feedback that I got on text messages from, Jimmy Haslam, who owns Pilot, Cleveland Browns, you name it, his, to Akeith DeLong, first rounder, one of my first guys I ever trained in 91, linebacker with the 49ers, and it go on and on. Businessmen, normal men. So I think that's where we are of creating this mental toughness. And it
spawned a lot of conversation between the two of us to try to define it. I mean, it went on for a while based off of what you had said. Now, I want to back up 1 second, though. You listened to Coach Frank Eppolito's interview, the boxing coach, and that's when this spurred some thoughts, and then watching your son play Austin East, right? So is that right? Is that how that triggered some thoughts in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a chain of events. We saw what we did on Saturday on the field. The coaches stepped away. We talked about, it looks like they were mentally tougher. So later that day, I had taken my son down to our community pool, our neighborhood pool, and one of the other coaches on the team had his son down there. And the coach told me that he had gone back downtown into the Mid-City area to get his hair cut. And 4 hours after our scrimmage, the team that we had scrimmaged was still in their pads out front selling potato chips for a fundraiser. So I'm sitting here trying to start to make some connections. I saw the mental toughness difference on the field. I looked at what I was doing, and I'm sure many other people, families on my team are doing. We probably came home, took a shower, had a nice lunch, maybe went swimming, played video games. And you got these kids that just mentally showed that they were tougher on the field out there doing a hard thing.
What were you noticing on the field that was obvious to you that these kids were, that there was a difference?
Yeah, I mean, there was a level of physicality that was different. There was also a clear attempt at intimidation, both physically and verbally. What they were saying, what they were doing, that I just think most of the kids on our team have not been exposed to it or were prepared to it, to deal with it. So that was
Do you think that scared the kids a little bit?
Yeah. It got to their head right away. Oh, okay. It got to their head right away. And then, that team had 2 subs, and you didn't hear any of those kids complaining about needing to get out, needing to get water. And I'm not saying that, you can't go get water, right? But you just looked over and it wasn't happening. So I looked at that and I thought, wow, there's something about that team as a group that they appeared mentally tough. And so when I think about what I had heard from my other coach about the kids that were out there selling the potato chips afterwards, I'm starting to think there's got to be an environmental component. But then I listened to Frank Eppolito talking in the podcast. It was a great podcast. I learned a lot, and I tend to agree with him when he said, I think there was the question about the bad MFer. He said, no, you're born with it. He was pretty adamant about that. So I was just trying to make connections and connecting the dots. Yeah. And, I've got a small sample size of life, right?
Right.
So that's what led me to think, well, who probably has the greatest exposure to people that have performed at a high level? And it was Charlie, just given the nature of what he's done for the last 1 years. How many years you been doing this?
Too long.
Yeah.
31. Yeah.
Charlie, I mean, that was a good summary of where he was coming from. What do you think?
Well, he brought his 9-year-old, 8-year-old in last Saturday. So, we were taking that on to go, okay, great handshake, a little guy. I think he's going to be fine. But I think there's so many factors that go into it. I think there's environment. I think there's genetic. I think it's what his little boy will see dad do. The example, I think, is probably the best. And we talked about that with some of the guys in here. So I think he's going to be on course. I mean, this day and age, coddled is one of the things that everybody does. Mm-hmm. I see it with even some of my best guys in here with their kids, is if they grew up this way, they want to make damn sure that their kids don't grow up that way. Mm-hmm. So they go to the other side of the spectrum
swing it the other direction, that had a rough go at life.
I'm guilty with my girls the same way. You
Okay.
know, I came up this way. You don't have to come up this way. So you know, you're going to find hard sooner or later.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to scrape your knees sooner or later. And like I said, dealing with all the stuff that we're doing, talking to different people, they're finding out that I wish I would have scraped my knees earlier than later, because now I'm in my mid-20s and I'm trying to figure it out of creating my own hard path. That's what I find out what a lot of people are starting to do is embracing hard and then creating this hard that they don't have to. So you don't have to be his little boy is fortunate, you know, he could come into the wood gym and pay the price and do things at a higher level. That doesn't mean that he's soft, and we take a Harrison Smith like that, but he's also driven, focused. And my personal first thing you have to have for mental toughness, even if there is mental toughness, I'm still not on the fence of that, is a positive attitude. Yeah. And then you brought up something this week in another one of our world famous production meetings, is I was thinking mental toughness was more success. Look at the guy's success in their occupation. And then you brought it home this week and said, well, what about just life adversity? Yeah. And then
because it's going to happen no matter what.
Well, mental toughness is it's so wide. You talk about mental toughness and listening to Henry Rollins on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he's talking about people being mentally tough that work at Starbucks, that go off to 9 to 5. Yeah. He doesn't think he's mentally tough. He's in a roadie van and doing his things. And, you know, people also go, oh, wow, you're mentally tough because you wake up so early for 31 years and do what you do and all this. And it's something that I'd love to do. So how am I mentally tough? Yeah.
How much... So I hear a lot of this because some of the things that you and I have talked about was the good fortune that a lot of the kids have that you train, right? And it's not all the kids, because I've seen some kids in here that weren't financially privileged, but. Let's be honest. Most are that come through here. Most, I'd say the majority. We're in a very privileged country. We all forget about that. How privileged we are to be in the most powerful material, wealth that the world has never seen before. The world has never seen before. We're living in the best times materially in the history of mankind in this country, if you're living in America, all right? And I think, health problems and issues in America is, we eat too much. The majority of people eat too much. Well, when has that been a problem in the history of the world, right? Material comforts, everything. So when you're talking about being 25, looking for something that's hard, it is a total perspective-wise, you got to think about that. You've lived a quarter of a century, and you're trying to find something hard to do. That's an incredible blessing that has been bestowed upon your life, right? So I think environment absolutely plays a role. There's not everybody in America, but the majority of America, if you're middle-class America, you're going to have more than 98% or more of what everybody else is experiencing in the world of 7 billion plus people. Okay. So, I mean, you got to look at that, right? And our problems are quite different from problems than I've seen in, say, Kathmandu, Nepal. Trust me. Things I've seen over there, you'd be like, wow, we got it good over here. Okay. So, with that said, and it's not to take away from anybody's struggles. I mean, even with all this extraordinary, wealth that we have over here, people still suffer. I mean, so there's still problems, big time. So I'm not going to discount that. But we're in an environment that is, in history, the best it's ever been, right? As far as wealth is concerned, food is concerned, things like that. Okay, so we're not starving. We're not, for the most part. There are maybe some kids out there in some poor circumstances, and even in America where that is, they're still struggling to even get food. So that's definitely the case in our community right here in Knoxville. So, but that's not generally the clientele that we're talking about here at the Wood Gym. So how does that play as a factor? Because a lot of these kids are coming in, they've had a good life, which is great, and that is something to be happy about. And now it's like, well, let's make them tough, right? So, how does that work? I mean, does that work? Is it something that you see all the time? I'm asking you as the expert.
Well, I think you brought up a good point about gratitude, about like being over in different countries and seeing things like that. Our kids today are so caught up with so many different things. I think what the one thing that even Joe could do with his boy, be self-aware about yourself. How can you improve? Don't worry about anybody else. And I think that's what happens with our society today is nobody's willing to do the self-check, of even fat shaming of, hey, even in here, hey, let's get going. You're fat. You can't say those words anymore. You can't do anything or get tough, get strong. What are those things? Those are things that we have to explore down the road in this 6-part series. How do you get tough? How do you get strong? We talked about that. How do you get fast? So Joe can't just say to his boy, you got to toughen up. Well, he don't know what that means. Yeah. You're sending him to a gunfight with a butter knife. He doesn't understand what that means. So I don't think toughness is something you get. I think you are born with whatever grit or whatever level
drive,
of
maybe. I mean, what do you?
I see a lot of people that fold with adversity, and I think more of life adversity, and it's said in thousands of books, of course the Bible, but in thousands of John C. Maxwell books that I've read over the years is judge the character of a person when things aren't going well, not when they're going well, not when they're getting gifts and getting wins. You want to see that person if they're really shaking people's hands after a loss and looking them in the eye and go, good game. Or admit the problem is we have to be so puffed up in our society now that nobody could go, man, I just got my ass handed to me. They can't say that. There's no humbleness anymore. It's always a humble brag, as Luke Hochaver says. One of my guys, one of my main guys is so. I think what happens is everybody looks at everybody else instead of looking inside themselves to figure out where they are and what they could change. Because I do think you could change. I don't think you're just born mentally tough or not mentally tough. And I think that's why people gravitate towards the Wood Gym, because it's hot in the summer at 120 in the turf room, and it's 20, 30 degrees in the winter. So that product of your environment. Where do you train? The Wood Gym. What did he say when he looked? What did Joe say when he was looking at the Wood Gym Patron? I don't think he's ready for it. Why? Is it too sparse? Is it too hard? Is it the Wood Gym? It's no nonsense. It's not pretty. I don't think so even he was doing what? Coddling his son. Of going, let's go here first and see what happens, instead of going, let's go the deep end, which that's the way they say I train. I throw people in the deep end first and see what they got, and then I pull them back. Yeah. But I hear that all the time from Joe. It's like, oh, he's not ready, so he's over here first, and then he'll come there when, he turns 13 or 14. He'll be there, and it's like, maybe a little too late if we're trying to develop some hardcore mental toughness, because the environment alone that his little man saw Saturday, they all get in the car and say the same thing. I loved it, and it was much harder to where I went the first time. Yeah. So
what do you think about that, Joe?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I would agree. It's when I first started coming here, I was thinking, whereas a parent, you can call it coddling, and I think it is coddling. You don't want to necessarily set your kid up to fail. And at an early point, when we first started,
good luck, Joe.
Right. Well, that's it. That's one of the things.
That's $1 billion. Because we all have kids here. Mine are the oldest, and it's the same. It's It's hard to do.
It's hard. Yeah,
it's hard to do.
Just to think about
because
it,
you know, and I'm sure you go to your parents when I just don't have it. I mean, how many times have the three of us said that to our kids? I know yours are young, but I just don't have it. We have it. So how do we say the power of no? My parents said no because they were really poor.
Yeah.
We didn't have it.
Yeah.
The big difference. And I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get rewarded for a treat or whatever, and everything's just
it comes to you.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, even Joe's boy at 9, you know, he's, son, do you know where you're going?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to the wood gym. Do you know what it costs to come to the wood gym? Do you know who comes through? So you're getting whatever people want to say, the best of the best or whatever. You're already, there it is. You didn't have to work up to getting to the wood gym. You're already at the wood gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, and that's certainly, you know, to me though, what changed in the 2 months that I've been here is recognizing what he could gain from it. So the concern of failure went away really quick. Because I think as I started to recognize the value of him being here. And even last night when we were driving home from practice, I said, hey, I'm going to go talk tomorrow to Coach Charlie about the gym. And I said, why are you going to the wood gym? And he said, so I can get mentally tougher. I said, why do you want to get mentally tougher? And he said, so I can be ready for the tough things in life. And that's what it's about. I'm not here. He's not coming to get better at football or wrestling. You know, to me, the value that we're getting because we're so fortunate, we work out at a great gym. I feel like, and I heard the term adversity earlier, I feel like I'm trying to identify ways to manufacture adversity because he's not having to deal with adversity in his day to day. He's lucky enough that he does not have that adversity that the team that he was playing against has on a day to day business. We're lucky enough that we have the ability to manufacture it, whether it's through coming to the wood gym, hopping on our mountain bikes, going for a hard ride. Manufacturing adversity is where I landed on saying, I'm not setting them up to fail by bringing them here. Yeah. I'm getting them prepared.
But that's a great point. Manufacturing adversity.
Yeah.
That's exactly, of course, Joe uses a great word for that. I just said that people are trying to make a hard life that they don't have to have a hard life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm witnessing that right in front of my eyeballs with people of manufacturing this hard life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
wow.
That's really good. My question for Charlie then is, you have all ages here, right? So 8 is probably one of the younger ones that you have.
Sure.
You know, they don't get much younger than that. They really don't.
No.
You have some that are knocking on the door of 90, right? You know, and I know that training someone 90 is different than training someone who's 35, who's different from training an athlete at 22 who's trying to get to the league, who's different from training a Pro Bowler, who's different from training someone who's 13 trying to make the varsity squad. You got an 8-year-old. What do you do?
Well, he's like Play-Doh. You know, he's like a piece of clay at 8 or 9. It's beautiful. You know, I think more kids should be coming through here for what Joe's saying. You just let
is
him.
That too young, or is that about right? Is there such thing as too young? I don't know.
Too young to move? No, because all the 8 and 9-year-olds are playing sports, so they're taking on. He's playing football, so he's running, jumping, collision.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a hitting sport; it's a collision sport. All the soccer kids, all the basketball players, all the tennis. You think
they're all playing? Yeah.
You think all the tennis players start at 13 that are on the won the U.S.
not.
Open? No. So you could move. That's the big myth, and that's where the parents or coaches, mostly parents, will wait till puberty. It's ridiculous. You got to run and jump and move, and that's what they do. He was on the turf the whole time, and he was starting to understand his body, balance, coordination. You know, you have 6 planes to your body. I tried to work his sagittal plane, which is his left-right side of his body. That is huge. There are more things than the beauty of it is. It looks like he came in, and I guarantee you, he said it was hard. But the next thing he probably said is, "I really enjoyed it and had fun."
Yeah,
right. So you make it fun, or you just make a workout. and you're fun. The environment is always
Fun.
what it
Yeah.
is. I always set that up because I want it to always be an experience when you leave the wood gym.
Yeah. So how much of fun and play is important for kids coming in? Because, I mean, I don't – do you grind them out? 10 more, yell at them. Now you're getting tougher.
Right.
Or is there a different approach than that? Because I think there's a lot of people would say, oh, well, yelling and screaming at the kid, making them tougher is something that you got to do. I don't in my gut, I don't think that's the correct approach. But I mean, you can get something out of them, having them work hard, keeping it fun. Is that it? More appropriate to keep them motivated?
You want them to come back. As they said, you want repeat business, correct? So you want them to come back and you want to have fun with it. And my thing is I want to show a lot of love. And my love is crazy. That definition of Charlie love, I've had everybody define that in so many different ways. But I guarantee you, they know that, he touched me today.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he touched my heart or touched my soul or rattled my brain.
Yeah.
I've pissed a lot of people off trying to challenge them in their head also. So,
no.
Yes. But it's all fun. And they look back and had to take that 10 minutes of pain and being PO'd and then text me later and go, you know what, you brought up a good, okay.
Yeah.
And that self-check. And I think his boy's going to go, I mean, he wants to come back, and that's the thing is the wood gym people seek you out. He called me, so it's like he's motivated. And we talked about that is I don't make somebody a wood gym Patron guy. They usually have that in them.
Yeah.
Just like when I went to my mentors, I found people like me.
Yeah. And that's one of the interesting parts of why I was trying to figure out how did Joe figure this place out, because it's not obvious. So you have to really dig around, right? I mean, it's not like it's, on the Yelp review, number one, 4.5 star rating, it's, you had to dig around and you were looking for something. So there, like you said, it's a wood gym type person who seeks it out, comes in, puts some money on the table, finishes the workout, brings the kid in. I mean, that's different than just someone that is getting a membership at the local wherever. And then there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, but that's different, right? That's a different drive, I would think.
I'm hard to find.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, from the wood gym, no sign, not advertised. It's hard to find, but it was hard to find my mentors.
Yeah, it was hard to find Louis and Radomir, right?
You had to look for them.
It was even harder then.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to go through a magazine. Louis Simmons wrote an article out of Powerlifting USA each month. And
some obscure magazine.
And he had his number at the bottom of each one, and it was his damn house number. And I remember his wife picked up, and I'm like, can I talk to Louis Simmons? She's like, hold on, Louis. And I was like, holy moly, I'm about to talk to Louis Simmons.
So you weren't much easier, though, because I think I emailed the website. And
this damn website. Come on, Griffin DeLong.
And like 2 weeks later, I got like a sentence back, and it wasn't much. And then you said, call me, and I called you, and you didn't answer. And then like 3 days passed, and I said, forget it. And I just showed up here and just said, hey, I'm Joe Gallardi.
Yeah. That's it.
That's how it really is.
Yeah.
People usually try like that. And then the will of the one, if they're hungry, because I have people that go, oh, I couldn't get in touch with you. I went somewhere else. And then the next year they try again. And it's like, why didn't you keep trying? How hungry were you? You weren't hungry enough for it yet. Yeah. That's how it really would. Just come find me. I'm not too hard to find.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I think that says something about you.
But he's driven. I think a guy like Joe, I wouldn't say sells himself short, because he has a confidence in him here. You could tell he's almost too no nonsense. I want him to back off a little and have some fun with it, because he's in and out, which I get. He has to go places. Yeah. But like, enjoy the experience too. Let me, chop you up a little, break your ribs, whatever it is. But he's got a lot of the attributes that everybody else is saying with mental toughness. And I think I was going to tell you this, Joe. I don't think you have to push the panic button yet with his 8-year-old, because Joe's a fine gentleman, and he's going to look at that.
How much of it is Dad's just walking the walk? This is Dad's part of life. He just comes in, he works out, gets it done, and the kids are noticing, and they're watching. and they're, they might not be, I mean, it's in them because you're around them and you're doing it. And how much do they pick that up? Because I just watch dad do it. I mean, that's just how life goes, and he gets after it, and you don't know any different, and that's the way it is. I mean, how much of it is the kids mirroring who's around them?
Well, we talked a lot about that with a lot of, Freddie Smith, our extreme cyclist, our Xterra champ. We talked about that. And we talked about, well, it's all in the book of Ephesians. It's not what you say, it's what you do that your kids will usually mimic. I came from fitness. My father was a former Marine and ran and trained every day. So I did that. My kids did
just like Frank.
Just like Frank. Yeah, Frank. Freaking Frank. But so, I don't know your story with your parents of health and fitness, but most of the time it's something that you've seen.
Yeah.
It's not all of a sudden. So you go back to that. So, we channel these things, and I got a couple from people, the last 2 weeks I'd had everybody give me their mental toughness, and all these guys. So I'll read all. I got 3 or 4. Yeah. Ben, wake up over there. It's coming. Chick-fil-A's coming. I think she's riding a bicycle today, as usual. She has to oil the chain. Maybe got a flat tire. All right. Knowing this is from one of my clients, current client.
Can I try to guess?
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be hard. I'll have to give you some clues.
Okay.
You know him. Knowing your own limitations and being cognitive enough to make your decisions without outside influence, a stronger EQ rather than IQ. He went, okay, I'll give you one hint. He's on the wall.
Okay.
And he went to one of the most disciplined schools in the country.
Harrison?
No. He's on the wall.
Okay.
Okay. He's on the bathroom wall.
Oh, Cody
McCoy from the Citadel.
Yeah.
Okay. He's one of the most structured, disciplined gentlemen I know.
Yeah.
And he went, graduated from the Citadel. He's the one that started the Patron
more
tattoo.
EQ than IQ.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's Cody.
All right. Well, Cody also finished first in his class in Citadel, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's got the sword or the deal.
Yeah. Yep. He gave me the sword.
Yeah.
It's in my home office.
Badass.
And,
Gave you the sword?
Yep.
Holy
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Here's another one. He comes in. He was on the podcast. Putting the task at hand ahead of everything else. Some people get mental toughness and being a bad ass mixed up. He's Italian. Had a great year this year with baseball. Was on the podcast.
Nicky Delmonico. No?
Close. UT.
Coach?
Oh, coach. His
Tony.
daddy. Okay.
Tony
his
V.
dad. Okay.
Tony Vitello.
So read that one more time.
Okay. He had a great year. He's an Italian guy.
Okay.
I do like his. Putting the task at hand ahead of everything else. Some people get mental toughness and being a badass mixed up.
Okay.
Getting
it done, basically. So get that task ahead, just get it done. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right. This is a really interesting one. This is from my friend, the strength coach at UNC basketball. Okay. He sought me out probably 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Same thing. Googled me, emailed me, and came in for a couple days just to see what I do.
Okay.
And he's known around the country as one of the best or the best basketball strength coach.
I'd imagine at UNC.
Yeah. And he came with the head coach now from Kansas.
Self?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. He's a beast of a coach. Yes. Yeah. All right.
Jonas Saratian, UNC basketball strength coach. Testicular fortitude. Quotations. Having the physical, mental, spiritual skill set to handle adversity in a variety of conditions, environments, and circumstances. But do you see the common word that we're using with all that is adversity?
Mm-hmm.
And I do go back to that a lot. Is you got to judge somebody of when they're going through something, how they're handling it. And mine personally is positive attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to know that there's the other side.
Yeah.
You have to believe that no matter what you're going through. And I think when you're tested at going through, you really see that's where you see your makeup is. And then we get Joe and I have had this dispute for a month since we've been talking about this, because I shortchange mental toughness and myself of mental toughness. I shortchange that because I just do what I do.
Yeah.
And then I
think that is being mentally tough. I say that I challenge you on that because I'm like that, but that's part of it.
That's part of it. You know,
for sure.
Joe overheard us talking one day about my father.
Yeah.
You know, burying him at 10:30 and then being back here at 1:30 from New Jersey to train people. And everybody's like, "How'd you do that, man? You had to be mentally tough." And I was like, "I'm not mentally tough." And then Joe always wants to debunk that and go, "I think you're selling yourself short on some mental toughness." But I never say I got to get mentally tough today.
Right.
You just do what you do, and I think you do a consistency. I think that's huge. With when you could go with gratitude, focus on you, self-check, self-aware, worry about you. Those type of things, I think, bring in a person that represents or defines mental toughness. But I've never. The people that I think mentally tough never talk and say that they're mentally tough.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
They're just kind of doing what they do.
Right.
Without, pounding their chest saying, "Look at me. Look how tough I am."
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a choice. I mean, you chose to come back and train after your dad passed. There was a choice to not do that, and that would have been acceptable. Right. So when you talk about it, you might not have recognized there being that choice. And maybe that's where the mental toughness is different. But there is a choice to do or not to do. And I think how you land on that can be a sign of mental toughness.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with it. I mean, he puts it in a good way. I agree with it. I just don't see it.
Right. Well, I think that's a hallmark of what you've already said about some of the people that you recognize as mentally tough, is that they do the steps. And they're not maybe even aware that what they're doing is tough, or they're making tough decisions. They're just going through it, and day by day it kind of builds up. And lo and behold, you're doing things that other people aren't doing. You've conquered more adversity as a result because you've had that practice of making those disciplined decisions, or decisions you have to make, and do, and with a good attitude. Because you can choose that to some degree, even though it's hard. Have a good attitude about it. I mean, I think those are practice skills. I
think prepare. Be ready for that. I think probably from childhood up, I was ready for that.
Yeah.
You knew that was coming.
You might have had more practice at it because you've seen it at an earlier age. But if you're 25, you're seeing it for the first time versus seeing tough, having to deal with adversity at the age of 5 or younger, because everything else is hard. I mean, I think that's some of those differences that you see. But does it mean that you can't, like you say, manufacture it in some way and just say, "Hey, every day, hey kid, you have to clean up your daily routines," right?
I think that makes a big part of it.
We didn't touch upon that, but that was something that you and I had discussed a little bit. What's your daily routine like with your kid? You doing all the cleaning up for them? Are you doing all the, doing this for them? Are they doing anything for themselves? Do they have any self-discipline? Are you instilling that on a day-to-day basis? Well, it's easier just to watch the TV and sit on their asses and eat the wrong things versus, hey, in order for you to get this stuff that you want, you got to do these things in order to get it. And, I don't know.
I agree. We talked about that.
You can think about those things. Yeah.
You talk to any high school kid now in here and ask if they probably can't spell the word chores because it's not there for them, because their parents do everything for them. So I've watched many parents in here. I watched one parent in here set up a softball pitching mound with the screen behind it while the kid sat in the chair. The person was out there getting it all done, fixed, and came back got the person and said, okay, let's go throw. Well, I knew right off the bat that person isn't mentally tough at all because she or he's not doing the things that they should be doing on their own for their own passion and desire. And I think even passion and desire looks at mentally tough. Yeah. I think it flows over of when you're doing something and you're really loving it. Mm-hmm. Wow, he looks mentally tough because he wants to go out there and hit off the tee or throw it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I do agree with Joe. I think it's a choice, but I don't know how that choice becomes a reality because it wasn't. I didn't have the choice. I didn't think of the choice.
Yeah,
I was the plane was already ready to pick me up at 12, and I was back here. Within 3 hours, putting my father in the ground to train. There wasn't a choice. And he is right. I could have easily said I'm taking off 2 or 3 days to, sit back or whatever it is. But I felt like that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like hard.
Yeah. I think there may be some things that you learn from hard. Right. And maybe it's hard maybe that's a lesson for a kid to somehow explain that to them in some way, shape or fashion. Right. Because and I know, Charlie, that you don't get, and we're just not necessarily meaning that being physically strong means you're mentally tough. I don't think they're necessarily the same things go hand in hand.
Or talented as an athlete doesn't mean you're mentally tough.
Right. Now, but there are lessons to be learned just in the physical act of being here that are some lessons to be learned. You learn some things like this through adversity, like physical tough, doing things that are physically hard that you're not used to doing. What happens when you stress the body? You did something really hard today. You only did 2 push-ups, but that was really hard for you to do. They come back in the next time. It's just a very simple thought experiment. Okay, this may not how it works, but they did 3 push-ups. They did more. They're 50% better than what they were before, right? So, but in order for them to have achieved that, I'm thinking of an 8-year-old kid trying to explain that to them. You had to do something hard. You recovered and came back, and you were better, stronger. That's a very tangible thing to see. Doing physically hard stuff, there's something good on the other side of that, right? You did more push-ups this time, right? Well, if you did something hard instead of getting that sweets on the that you want right now, why don't you wait a little bit, and then you're delaying that gratification a little bit. And on the other side of that, usually there's something good that happens when you delay the gratification. When you put a little bit of more work. You did the things that you didn't want to do, but you had to do. On the other side of that, there was something very good that happened to you, right? It's better. And that's why hard is good, because the reason why you like it is because on the other side of that, even though you manufactured it, there's something good that happens to you. It's better than where you were before. There's a circumstance that is improved as a result of it, right? So you build a little bit on that. And then there's always a carrot on the other side of that stick when you've climbed over that whatever manufactured adversity or real adversity or whatever it is. Some people learn those lessons early in life because there's a lot of adversity, but in your case it's different. But I think those are important lessons for hard. Why would anyone like hard? It doesn't make any sense. We're all primed for the most efficient way of living, right? Because it's a hell of a lot easier to go downstream than upstream. Mm-hmm. But why would you want to go up? Why would you want to climb up? Why would you want to do that? What's the benefit of some suffering? And then we'll talk to Freddie Smith. Why does he like to suffer his ass off? Like, why is that any fun for him? Right? Well, that's a good question to ask him. But I think you like hard I would say probably for similar reasons, right, Chaz? And then also, they may be too young to experience this, but you feel good. There's an actual feeling of your physical body after you've gone through something that's really uncomfortable, and you recover and you get a rush of endorphins. You feel good. You actually feel good. Beyond that, though, mentally, it is good because you push yourself mentally. That you stretched yourself mentally as a result, and that is good. There's a neuroscience behind this, right? So you can see in the portions of the brain that actually grow, even when you're older, that get stronger and more robust because you're able to control your emotions. Get stronger. There's things biologically that you can experience that are actually good as a result of doing hard things physically. Right? So there's a multitude of reasons why it's good and why you just gravitate towards it because you've had a lifetime of physical work and just living life and knowing that there's good on the other side of hard, right? But that's a good lesson for these kids. So any kid to learn is like delay that gratification, push through it. On the other side, it's better. Mm-hmm. It's better than where you are.
Well, and I think Joe, his boy wanting to come back, he's already developing mental toughness,
and he might not even be aware, right? I mean, that's that because he's 8. So, but
if he told his father, I don't like that place, I don't want to go back, then you go through the questionnaire of why don't you like it, and then you go through that. But for him wanting to come back, he's got some inner MFer in him that Joe was like, already the test was there. Wow, he wants to come back. He doesn't want to go to Chuck E. Cheese on Saturday morning. He wants to come to the wood chip. So I think that's a start of somebody coming back, not coming back. Because I see that we talked about the failures to the successes on the walls. Well, I've had more people not stay with me than stay with me.
Yeah.
I've had more. I'm really good at a lot of failures.
Yeah. Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to work, but I can't adjust what I'm doing or what I'm trying to get out there. So that person may not be mentally tough for this place.
Yeah.
Doesn't have, we have air and heat, but we don't use it, but it has it. But he doesn't have air conditioning. The temperature is not right.
Yeah.
Okay. We talk about life because we see that. We talked about the book I was writing. Give me an hour and I'll tell you everything about you. Well, if somebody's already complaining about the temperature, how much adversity have they been through? How much suffering have they been through? And how much do they want to run from? It comes to this. And you're either going to run to it or run away from it.
Yeah.
And I choose to run to it.
Yeah.
If you said, here's easy here. I mean, we all know this. It's all biblical is how we feel when we work. We're designed to work. So when we buy something and it's our hard-earned money, we feel good about that. Yeah. When you go through a workout and finish it, I know 1 through 10 and I got all 4 rounds. You feel good about that. You don't feel good when you have to cut it short.
Yeah.
You don't feel the same. So you just lowered yourself down. Is confidence is mental toughness. Yeah. So you look at that and go, I'm prepared. And honestly, we go back to my father. He prepared me for that.
Yeah.
That day that would come. And then it really tested me. It was like, wow. He did some things that I didn't even know he was doing when he was on Earth, and he did it.
Now, the other thing, too, is you still want to keep an 8-year-old having fun, too. Mm-hmm. You don't want to just pound the message, right? I mean, keep it fun. I mean, that's also part of it, a little bit of push and play.
The will of the want. We talk about that. So it's like these people... Charlie didn't ask them to go on the wall. They wanted to be on the wall. It was honored to be on the wall. There's a lot of people that bring me stuff that I don't put on the wall. I mean, there's a crate of it. Thanks, but no. It has to mean something. It has to have a story behind it. And it's usually a hard story, and most of the time it is.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think? What we're gabbing about over here?
I 100% agree. I think when both of you were talking about liking to do hard things. You're giving kind of the biological or physiological response from doing hard things. I think about one of my best friends ran a marathon. I started training for a marathon, and I said, "What do you advise?" He's like, "Here's the deal. You're going to get into this. It's going to be hard, but you're going to become comfortable with being uncomfortable." And that's something I think is also kind of a sign of mental toughness or a value of doing hard things, is that you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And let's be honest, a lot of our life, we're not in control. That brings a degree of uncomfortableness. And I think doing hard things, pushing yourself, helps get you comfortable with dealing with what that means. So
I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot. Okay. I guess we'll wrap up with Joe's last statement of Yeah, being uncomfortable. And hard can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you choose hard or easy, I'm most of the time going to go, man, let's do the hard things. Man, that hill's hard to bike today. Let's do it. Let's see where I poop out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let me see where I go to my knees. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it's also exposure.
Yeah.
People don't want to be exposed for the weaknesses or vulnerabilities, but
Yeah.
show me a weak man, I'll show you a strong man. Show me a vulnerable man, I'll show you a strong man. I don't want anybody walk in here with their chest puffed up, because if, you know, guns and bullets go flying, they're going to be on their knees and they're not going to be ready to fight the good fight. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is the mental toughness of life is going to hit you.
Yeah.
You're either in the storm or coming out of the storm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's biblical all the way through. So you got to be prepared. And I think prepared shows mental toughness, but you don't get mental toughness. Perfect.
Wonderful.
Right?
I love
Joe,
it.
thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I mean, you started this whole thing with your text with your boy, and you know, we got 5 more parts. It could be longer with the people we get out on as our guests, and it'll be awesome. But I'm going to say one thing is, I don't think there's anybody mentally tougher in this gym than Dr. James Chu for what he's done.
Oh, no.
And that's a pure compliment of and he could talk to you. He was talking real quick about that. He said something in the first podcast that I ever did with Chewy, is he opened me up to something I never knew about climbing, which I don't climb. It's not going up the mountain. It's going down the mountain that is more dangerous.
And I think that is a very, you can apply that to life.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about earlier.
That is and it's great when you're going up and you're sitting on top. But that didn't last forever.
Right.
You got to get down. How is it you can do it in grace, or you going to fall off the fucking mountain? You know, hey, right?
But you were prepared from all the training that we did, so it showed. And I do like Freddie's thing. His will be really, really good because he went through the checklist of why. Because you look at people and go, okay, okay, how does he do that? Okay, that's our teaser. We'll leave it for the next time. Happy Friday, Joe. Thanks for coming in, giving us your time.
Thank
Dr.
you.
James Chu, always a pleasure.
Loved
Always a
it.
pleasure.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much, Joe.
You started it, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right, baby.
Thanks.
Have a good one.